Well, hello. You know what? Sometimes in the summer you get what? Inundated with a fruit or a vegetable coming from the garden. And this time of year it's tomatoes. And while I love to eat them at every meal, you sometimes, like this, have too many. And I don't like to throw them away. You can do a lot of things. You can do salsas, you can do juice, you can eat them fresh. But what is even quicker? And maybe you don't want to go to all that work. Maybe you want to do something quicker. Freeze them. I love freezing tomatoes because you can use them in any application that works for you. So if you make sauces with them, if you like them for soups, it doesn't matter. And the thing is, well, for some reason, I've never canned colored tomatoes. I often usually only stick to red. You can do whatever color you want, whether it's canning or freezing. And a lot of times for some reason, I freeze my colored ones, and that is what I use them during the winter. Maybe in different sauces I wanna make, like a pasta sauce or a soup. I wanna have a fresh tomato. This is what I go for. So when I start, I pick whatever tomatoes I want, and I keep colors usually the same. I don't put all colors together. So I'd keep maybe like my Cherokee purples together. I would maybe keep my oranges together. These are actually two different types, but I'm grouping them because they're mostly gonna be the same color. That just looks better once they are in a container together to have the color be somewhat the same. Otherwise you get kind of a muddy color or an off color that doesn't maybe look good. The thing when you preserve something, you want it to be beautiful because that's what you're cooking with and you're eating. So do what works for you. But to start, what I have is some beautiful tomatoes. And what I like to do is start by, before I take the skins off, is take the cores out and any of the like imperfections. So I go around, this one has a really stocky core. And then what we're gonna do is this is when we are gonna go then and make sure that we get all the skin off. And I'll show you a quicker way to do that. But I like to take that bottom piece that could be going brown off. And each tomato can have different ones. Like if you look, this one has kind of a bigger piece of that at the bottom. And if you look over here at these Cherokee purples, they have a really small piece at the bottom. So it kind of just depends what type of tomato and what it's gonna be like. So I'm taking out all these cores, taking out any bad spots too. Sometimes they get split if you leave them on the vine too long. So I make sure to take that out too, because you don't want that in your wonderful frozen tomato. And the thing with frozen tomatoes is you don't have to worry about the safety that you do with canning. You don't have to put citric acid with them. You don't have to worry about anything like that. You can just freeze them pretty much fresh. So what I'm gonna do is finish cleaning these up and get them ready. Then we're gonna go over and get the skins off. I have boiling water here. And you can do this in multiple ways. You can do it in smaller amounts too. This is my hot water bath canner that I usually use, so it just is easier to use it when it's here. Now I'm gonna put these tomatoes in, and it literally takes 20, 30 seconds. So I put a few in, let them sit for just a little bit. You don't want to cook the tomatoes, but what you're doing is just slightly cooking off that skin. This is what helps with a peach, with any stone fruit really, with tomatoes, just to help get the skin off really quickly. And if you're gonna do one tomato, yeah, sometimes you just do it with maybe a knife and you just sit there and do it. But if you're gonna do a large batch of them like this, it can just be a nice quick way to get tomatoes and peel them really quickly. And that way, and if you're someone that you're saying, hey, I don't mind the peel, go for it. That's no problem. I every so often will just check them to make sure that we're not quite there, because you don't want to cook them. So I'm gonna leave them in here a few seconds and we'll start taking them out. I'm pulling out the last batch here. I did it in 2 batches. And how do you know if they're ready? One, just trust it takes like 30 seconds, maybe a minute, but you can just see here, the skin is wanting to start pulling away. So it cracks open and it just, look at that. It just comes right off. When you do this, you wonder, why do you ever try to fight and peel a tomato by hand? This makes it so easy. I have them all done. So you can do as much. What's great about this is there is no recipe. This isn't like canning. You can do as much or as little as you want and let it go. So what I do at this point is, you wanna let them cool off slightly until you can touch them. But you wanna then just maybe take a knife, or just look at this. You hardly even need a knife. It just kind of comes right off. But sometimes the side of a knife will help you just catch it and it will come off quicker. So I take off all the skin. And the skin just doesn't preserve well when you put it in the freezer. It kind of starts coming off in the freezer itself too during that freezing and then thawing process. And it just isn't really great to put into things because it kind of sits there and gets balled up. So I like to cut them open, and this is where you want to decide how you're going to use them. I like to cut them into big chunks here. And then I am someone that doesn't love that white pith always, so I take some of that out. That's just that white pithy stuff. And I will take out kind of the excess juice. Now, don't get all ready to sit there and comment and say, you're getting rid of all the goodness. However you wanna do your tomatoes, you go right ahead. Some of that excess juice and the excess seeds, I don't like. I think it can kind of just muddle out some of that great meatiness that I want. So you can, however you want. If you want to, you can just take these tomatoes, you can just chop them up into big pieces. They're gonna, of course, collect juice on their own just because that's what they do. But, and as you see, as we do this, see that juice that's coming out and it's just collecting? Just chop them up however you're gonna use them. Because the thing is, you're not gonna wanna eat these fresh. You're gonna wanna find ways to cook with them. So whether it's in soups, sauces, pastas, whatever it is, you're gonna wanna find your own way to use them. So who's the best judge of what that's gonna be? You! So you can do whatever you feel like is gonna be worth it for you and your family. And that's the best thing. So I'm gonna continue to chop these up. Guys, this is seriously no recipe preserving. This is the best way to preserve if you're not someone that preserves a lot, or if this is new to you. Try this and you're gonna love it. I'm gonna keep chopping these up, getting them ready, then we're gonna pack them, store them. We're gonna be making something with tomatoes. I have them all cleaned and I'm starting to put them in containers. Now, you can get freezer containers. These literally are, they're ancient. They were probably, I don't know, when my mom first had them, when she first got married, my grandma had some, who knows how old they are. They work well, they last, it seems like forever. But you can also buy new ones too. And the thing that you wanna remember when you're freezing something is, things expand in the freezer. So you wanna always fill it slightly less, probably close to, you know, half to an inch less. And now, at first, it looks pretty maybe to have things in there kind of dry and not have a lot of liquid on it, but the problem is that doesn't really freeze well. When things freeze with a lot of air in them and a lot of just, you know, all that around, all the pieces of vegetable or fruit that are in there, that's when you get freezer burn. That's really the enemy. So instead what you wanna do is, all this juice collects as you're, you know, skimming them and kind of cutting them up. And so I make sure to pour that on top. And then that's what's really gonna help preserve these and give them that great fresh flavor that you want. So you wanna kind of look like peaches when you do these orange ones. But you wanna just make sure you get that to the top, leaving that freeze line of, you know, a ½ inch to an inch at top to make sure they don't over freeze. Look how pretty that is. This is the easiest way, if you have something extra, just to be able to do it. Now, I know I'm gonna get some flack for this, but you can freeze in glass containers too. You again just wanna make sure you leave enough. Sometimes I even like to freeze them with the lid off to see how much they expand, just to make sure I didn't freeze them or fill them too full. You can do it, you just wanna be careful, but just like glass, once these are frozen, if I would pull them out, they can just break if they're dropped too, just like glass. So there are actually like even glass containers called freezer jars that you can actually put in the freezer. So I do always label them just with the date. These I definitely know by what they look like, what they're gonna be, so I don't worry about putting on the label what they are. But that's all it is, guys. Like, this is what I love about preservation, about doing something that is in season. You know, maybe it's at a farmer's market, you get way too many tomatoes, and you just have a few extra and you don't want them to go bad. I hate wasting food. This is a great way. Do one container, do half the size container, do whatever works for you, because even if you're in a small apartment and you just have a fridge freezer, you can pull out one container of these in the middle of winter and remember how delicious summer is. And that's what I love. Think of the great sauce this would make. Think of the great soup this would make. That's all it is, and that's easy. So what do I hope you do with this? One, I hope you go to a farmer's market if you don't have a garden, and that you, what? I hope you find a fresh tomato. And enjoy it. Enjoy what is in season. Two, I hope you actually do this. I hope you preserve tomatoes and share this video around so everyone can see how easy this is. Because yeah, it helps me, but it helps everyone see this is so doable. As little or as much as you want, and you'll be good to go. Check my website, wiseguy.com, for the how-tos and the recipes on what I'm doing. And as always, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. I'm always doing my stories and letting you know what I'm doing. So until then, find a way to preserve, enjoy it, enjoy what's in season. That's the most important.